I used to believe evil had to be loud, fire and brimstones, blood and screaming, like what you see in Hollywood. But the real thing, what I saw, it didn't announce itself. It crept and it watched. It never left. My wife and I bought the place on a whim. We were city people mostly. But after her second trimester ultrasound, we decided we wanted something different. Somewhere quiet, safe. A place where we could raise our daughter, surrounded by trees and fresh air. That's how we ended up with this old farmhouse. 25 acres of rural Tennessee, woods and an abandoned homestead that looked like it hadn't been seen since the last Great Depression. The bones were good, but the house needed serious work. We knew that going in. So I volunteered to head down first, 3 weeks ahead of my wife, to patch up the place before she arrived. She stayed back with her mom, safe and swollen and glowing. I packed my truck with tools, paint, and a mattress. The dog, a German Shepherd named Danner, stayed with her. I didn't want her home alone. Now, I wish I'd brought him with me. The first few days were normal. Hard work, unpacking, patching drywall, and hauling out old furniture. I converted what must have been the original parlor into the nursery room, with a soft yellow paint, little cloud decals in the ceiling, a rocking chair I'd restored by hand. I wanted everything perfect for my wife and our daughter. But the house didn't want to be fixed. It started small. I'd catch movement in the corner of my eye while painting. A flicker of something dark moving past the doorway. A shadow that didn't belong to anything. Once, I thought I saw someone standing at the edge of the nursery closet. Tall, still, but gone when I turned my head. I told myself it was from exhaustion. I was working 12-hour days and sleeping on a twin mattress on the floor. My body was sore, my brain was frayed, and I needed rest. But then, whistling started. It was maybe 2:30 in the morning. I was asleep, dead asleep, when I woke up to the sound of someone whistling. Not music, just a few slow, tuneless notes, like someone testing their breath. It was coming from outside, maybe from the woods. I sat up and listened, my heart going cold. It kept going, maybe 20 seconds, then it stopped. No footsteps, no rustling leaves, just silence. The next day, I walked the perimeter. No tracks, no sign of anyone. I even installed motion lights on the front porch and in the driveway, but nothing ever tripped them. The next night, I heard it again. On the 7th day, I decided to clear a path through the woods behind the house. I told myself it was so we could eventually build a tree house, but honestly, I just needed something to remind myself that I was in control. About a half-mile in, I'd found something. A ring of stones, maybe 3 feet wide. In the center, bones, animal bones, arranged in a spiral. Melted candles, long burned out. Symbols scratched into the bark of a nearby tree. Some were painted red, and some were carved deep. There was a circle within a triangle that repeated a lot. My stomach turned the more I looked at it. I didn't want my wife to see this. She wouldn't just be creeped out. She'd leave, and I'd spent too much time making this house a home. So, I grabbed a shovel, dug a hole, and buried the whole damn thing. That night was when everything shifted. I was asleep again. Sometime past midnight, I woke up to the sound of heavy footsteps, like claws on an old wooden floor. Too heavy to be human, too distinct to be my imagination. My first thought was Danner. I sat up with relief. Then I remembered. My wife still had him in Atlanta. I turned on the lamp, and there, standing 3 feet from the bed, a goat. Jet black, no collar, no sound. just standing there, staring at me with eyes like burned marbles. I bolted. I didn't even grab my boots. I sprinted barefoot through the hallway, nearly knocking over the ladder in the nursery. I flung open the front door, and I stopped dead. There was someone standing in the driveway. Tall, wearing denim overalls, a coat too big for his frame, and a wide-brim hat that covered his face in the shadows. He didn't move. I called out, "Is this your goat?" He nodded once, slowly, and then he said, as clear as if he were standing 2 feet from me, "You really shouldn't be staying in that house." I blinked, and he was gone. No footsteps, no truck, just gone. I should have left right then, but I didn't. I told myself I'd finished the nursery. I told myself that maybe it was just a nightmare. The next week, the lights began to flicker. Even the brand new bulbs that I installed. Tools moved on their own. I'd find the cabinets open when I'd shut them. There were more sounds in the night. Scratching. Whispering. The whistling had returned. Closer now. Inside the walls. But it was the basement that really broke me. It was one of the coldest nights, and I had to light the pilot light of the furnace. Old house, old system. I took a flashlight and went down into the cellar. The air was still down there. Thick. My breath clouded in front of me. I flipped the switch to the bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. It came on, but it was dim, like the darkness was swallowing the light. I looked up towards the bulb, and that's when I saw it. Someone was in the corner of the ceiling, crawled up into it like a spider. Long arms, skin like mold, black holes where the eyes should have been. It wasn't just watching me, it was smiling. I didn't scream. I couldn't. I just ran. Up the stairs, through the door, and into my truck. I didn't stop until I hit the interstate. And I never went back. I told my wife the house had asbestos, that it wasn't safe, that we'd have to resell the land and buy elsewhere. She believed me, or at least, she pretended to. We live in a brand new ranch style now. Beautiful place, open floor plan, bright. But sometimes, late at night, I'll catch her staring into the corner of the nursery. And then one night, I heard her whisper, "I see it too." I'd convinced my parents to let me stay behind while they took my younger brother on a weekend camping trip. I was 19, freshly graduated, and eager to work on a freelance project that would launch my career. They were hesitant at first. Our neighbors had reported prowlers recently, but agreed once I promised to check in every 2 hours and keep the security cameras on. I arrived home Friday afternoon, lugging my laptop bag and an armful of groceries. Worn carpets and faded wallpaper welcomed me as I pushed open the front door. The house was still, except for the hum of the refrigerator and a distant dog barking from down the block. I dropped my things in the living room, then flicked on the security cameras. I'd set them up a week ago. Motion sensors at every entry point, cameras covering the living room, kitchen, and hallway leading to the bedrooms. The attic camera wasn't connected yet. It had signal problems, but everything else was on my phone and live. The house grew darker as dusk set around me, and I felt a pleasurable peace in knowing I was alone with nothing but my work and my thoughts. At 7:02, I shot a quick selfie video. "Hey Mom. Hey Dad. Everything's fine. Dinner started, cameras are on, and I'll call you again at 9. Love you." By 8:15 p.m., I was deep in a revision when I heard my phone ping. Motion detected, front hallway. My heart gave a little jolt. I paused, listening for footsteps. Silence. I tapped the alert camera view on my phone. The front hallway was empty. Must be a rat, I muttered, but my voice sounded tense. I opened the log and scrolled back 10 minutes. Sure enough, the hallway sensor tripped 3 times, all within the first 15 seconds. But there was no visual on the camera feed, just static, flickering before the camera cut out. I checked the camera's battery. 95%. Wi-Fi signal strong. Nothing amiss. I shrugged it off and went back to editing. At 9 p.m. I called again. I'm good. No worries. Cameras are all green. Talk to you soon. I set an alarm for 11, then resumed work. Around 10:30, I ran a hot shower, planning to go to bed early. Steam fogged the bathroom mirror. I leaned into it, wiped it clear, and froze. In the mist, I saw someone standing behind me. Full figure, identical to me, but darker, shadowed. My heartbeat thundered. I backtracked, stepping out of the bathroom and flicking on the hall lights. Nothing. I wiped the mirror dry, but the outline was gone. Get a grip, I whispered. I kept the bathroom light on and returned to the living room, glancing over my shoulder each time I passed the mirror. At 11 p.m. on the dot, I called again. All's quiet, except for me being jumpy. Good night. I ended the call, slid out of the living room into the hallway, and switched off the lights as I made my way to my bedroom. Sleep came uneasy. My dreams were fractured glimpses of a tall figure standing in my doorway, watching me. I woke up at 1:17 a.m. I checked my phone. 2 unread security alerts. Front door sensor triggered, and hallway camera motion. I froze. I hadn't triggered it. I scrolled both alerts. No video, just a blank timestamp. My chest tightened. I grabbed my phone and clicked the live camera. The living room looked undisturbed. I toggled to the hallway view. Empty. Kitchen? Nothing. I exhaled and returned to bed. A muffled tap came from the other side of my door. I held my breath. The second tap sounded deeper from inside the room, like behind me. In the morning, the sunlight felt like a safety blanket. I chalked the tapping up to a branch knocking on the window. I'd text my parents. Everything's fine, just a weird dream. But I didn't mention the tapping. I brewed coffee and sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. My editing progression stalled. The tapping had shaken me deeper than I'd admit. I chugged a cup and powered through a few pages, determined to regain my calm. At 3:45 p.m., I got an alert. Camera offline, hallway. I cursed under my breath as I opened the app. The hallway camera was unresponsive. I walked back to check its feed on the router's admin page. It was connected and showing traffic. I unplugged and replanted it. Nothing. I waited 5 minutes. Finally, the camera reappeared, time-stamped at 1:02 a.m. The feed started rolling, but it wasn't the hallway. It was my bedroom, camera facing the door. I stared. How? The hallway camera shouldn't see into the bedroom, and there were no cameras there. The video played a single minute of me sleeping, eyes closed, breath short, before cutting out. A cold, sick dread dripped down my spine. I clicked through the logs. There was no record of camera installation in my bedroom, yet here it was, clearly recording. I rushed to the bedroom door. The knob was locked. I hadn't locked it last night. Adrenaline flared. I tried to twist the knob. No good. It wouldn't budge. I banged on the door. Hello? Let me in. No answer. I turned back to the living room, phone trembling in my hand. The camera's feed was live again, the angle unchanged. Just me, pacing anxiously in the living room. Someone was in the house. I dialed 911. An operator answered. I'm alone, and someone's in the house. My cameras are compromised. Please, send help. I heard the distant wail of sirens, relief, and terror mingled. The operator asked me to stay on the line. I fled to the pantry, cramped but defensible. I'd stacked canned goods to barricade the door behind me. Someone's walking the other direction. Then, a faint click, dragging like fingers tapping on the doorknob. Police, a voice shouted outside the front door. I heard running footsteps. On my phone, the live feed switched back to the hallway. No sign of anyone. Open the door, an officer's voice commanded. I unblocked the pantry door and emerged, hands raised, tears streaming my cheeks. 2 officers stood in the hallway. Behind them, more moved methodically. The bathroom curtain flapped. A black glove lay on the floor. I led them to the hallway camera. It was unplugged from its mount, the cable severed. In the kitchen, a set of muddy footprints led from the back door, across the tiles, up the steps to my bedroom door. But there was no one inside. I collapsed on the bottom step, shaking. An officer knelt behind me. Are you hurt? I looked up, blinking. No. Are you sure they're gone? He nodded. We searched. No sign. We'll stay until your parents return. My mother called me 2 hours later. I spoke through my sobs. Yes, there was someone. No, they didn't touch me. Yes, the camera showed everything. She and Dad would fly home first thing. The house felt wrong, every room heavy with their presence. When night fell, I barely slept. Hallway, attic, closets. I checked every corner with a flashlight. No trap doors, no hidden crawl spaces. Nothing except that ruined camera and muddy footprints. On Monday, my parents returned. I pointed out everything. Dad inspected the security system, replacing the cameras. A detective filed a report. The officers collected the glove and dusted it for prints. No matches. Weeks later, I tried to resume work, but the dreamlike horror clung. My nightmares returned. Dark shapes in the hallways, taunting me from mirrors. I decided to review the camera logs again. Maybe I'd missed something. I dove into every file, timestamps, sensors, triggers, logs, everything. Stuck between mundane afternoon footage was a clip I hadn't noticed before. The hallway camera at precisely 2:16 p.m. weeks ago recorded something off. The angle was slightly askew, as if the camera had been tilted. The hallway was empty, except for a solitary figure standing at the far end. It was me. I bolted upright. It couldn't be me. I'd been at work. I checked my phone calendar. No day off. Yet the figure was wearing my favorite gray hoodie, black jeans, and the same sneakers. I scrubbed the footage. The figure finally lifted its hand and pressed a finger to its lips. Be quiet. Then turned toward the camera and smiled, a slow, deliberate curl of the lips that was mine, but more sinister. My blood froze. Someone had impersonated me. Someone had been in my parents' house, had perhaps degraded me in ways I hadn't noticed, watching me sleep, learning my habits. I secured the footage and left town. I stayed with a friend. I changed the locks and installed a new system. I'll sometimes see that smile in my reflection. Sometimes I catch movement in the corner of my eye. Shadows behaving like me. I dread the day I'll find proof the intruder was more than just a thief or a stalker, that he truly became me. Because if he learned to move in my skin, to live as me, who's to say he won't try again? And next time, he might do more than just watch. When you live far enough outside of town, you stop locking the bathroom door. You leave windows cracked. You sleep with the back door open on hot nights and trust that the night is empty. I was a single mom, and I still am. My daughter Ava was 5. I'd left the city to give her a better life, space to run, nature, and just quiet. We ended up in a small blue house about 15 minutes outside of nowhere town in Central Oregon. 1 bedroom for her, 1 for me. No neighbors, just trees, hills, and quiet. At first, it felt like peace, but then I noticed something wrong with my toothbrush. I had one of those electric ones, the kind with a 2-minute timer. I only used it once a day, in the morning before work. But about a month into living there, I noticed it was damp before I even touched it. Then the fridge. I'd packed Ava's lunches at night, juice boxes, cut strawberries, a little chocolate bar, and then the next morning, the strawberries were gone. A few times I found the trash lid slightly off, like someone had tossed something in too quickly. I told myself I was tired, distracted. Ava was a handful, and work was demanding. But then there was the smell, like body odor, sharp, like someone who hadn't showered in weeks. It hit me in the hallway one night, like a slap to the face. I finished cleaning the house top to bottom, opened every window, scrubbed the floors, but it always came back, and always in the hallway. Always faint, but there. And every night, it got a little stronger. I started locking the doors, all of them, front, back, even the ones from the kitchen to the garage. Still, things moved. A chair that wasn't where I'd left it. A light on I didn't remember turning on. Once, I woke up and Ava's bedroom door was wide open. She swore that she hadn't gotten up. She even asked me why I had opened it. I didn't answer. I started feeling watched. Like there's no other way to put it. I'd be brushing my hair and feel eyes on me. Not just from outside, like someone was peeking in. From inside the house. Like something was just around the corner. Listening. Waiting. I told my friend Claire. She's practical. Ex-military. Mother of 3. No time for ghosts. She'd asked if I had any cameras. I didn't. So the next day, she came over and installed one for me. Right above the living room. Facing the hallway. That night, I couldn't sleep. At 3:12 a.m., the motion alert triggered. The next morning, I found Claire already on my porch. She looked pale. "I watched the footage," she said. I felt my heart seize up. She took out her phone and showed me the video. It's grainy, black and white, but quiet. For the first 10 seconds, nothing happens. Just the empty hallway, dimly lit by the nightlight in Ava's room. Then, the floor vent near the laundry room shifts. A hand comes out first, and then an arm, then a head. A man pulls himself out of the vent like a spider crawling out of a drain. He's middle-aged, greasy hair and thin, wearing what looks to be like hospital scrubs, dirtied and gray. He stands there for way too long, staring down the hallway. And then, very slowly, he walks towards Ava's room. I handed the phone back to Claire and threw up in the sink. We left that morning. No clothes, no toys, just the keys, my wallet, and Ava still in her pajamas. We drove to the sheriff's department and told them everything. When they had gone into the crawl space, they found more than just the man. He'd made a little nest down there. Mattress foam, food wrappers, and a bucket for waste. But the worst? Tucked in a far corner, they found something else. A mannequin. It was dressed in Ava's pajamas. He'd glued hair on its head. My hair. And in one of its hands, it held one of Ava's dolls. The man was an escapee from a mental health facility 2 towns over. He'd gone missing nearly 6 months earlier. We'd only been in the house for 5 weeks. He never spoke, not during the arrest, not during the processing, not in court. All they ever got out of him was one sentence he whispered as they pulled him out of the vent. I waited until she was asleep. I live in an apartment now, on the 3rd floor, neighbors on all sides, security system with every bell and whistle. Ava's doing much better. She's 9. She doesn't remember much. I wish I could say the same. I still lock every door, every cabinet. I check every vent every night. Some nights, I still wake up, heart pounding, waiting to hear the soft metal cling of the vent being lifted from below.